Welcome back to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kausji. Moving on to future affairs, today we look at automotive futures in Malaysia. Now, smart cars are set to drive the global auto industry's development. The EV battery industry alone, FYI, is currently valued at 50 billion USD, projected to double and reach 100 billion USD by the end of this decade. Big-name technology companies and new startups are creating mass production models, increasing access to different consumer markets. Joining me in the studios to discuss Malaysia's opportunities and challenges in this industry is now Anthony Lim, Senior Editor with paultan.org.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Pleasure to have you with us here in the studio. So let's get started off. I was really interested to ask you about the fact that do you feel EV vehicles are the way forward for Malaysia's goal of also becoming carbon neutral by 2050? And at the same time, there's the huge discussion in the automotive industry about the merits of electric, battery-based or petrol fuel alternatives. Where do you see Malaysia at now?
Well, I think electric vehicles are going to be the future. That's one of the things because, transport will always be necessary.
Absolutely.
And so will passenger vehicles. How will Malaysia feature in this? Well, I think like everything else globally, we will have to adopt electrification in some form. As it goes on, it will obviously take up the bulk of everything for us. I don't know how it will shape up in terms of, production and assembly, because that's down the future. But we will be involved in it in quite a big way, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that does seem like the overview for in the now, but at the same time, how can Malaysia leverage on the opportunities that we have as well as the demand for new, smarter, zero-emission vehicles? We've had a couple of launches, but at the same time, what about a Malaysian homegrown brand doing that?
Well, I think it will come down to basically how fast that things can progress. Obviously, it takes a long time to develop a car. An electric vehicle is no different.
Sure.
The technology is very new. It's still in its nascent stage for many people, for many companies. How soon can we have a Malaysian electric vehicle? Well, Proton has said that they are going to ramp up their, launch of electric vehicle to 2025. Initially, it was 2027. How this will be accomplished remains to be seen. There's still no details on that. Mm-hmm. As for other, local brands, which is Petrol, they are still also planning something, but we don't know what it is yet. So, will there be a Malaysian car? For sure, there will be. But when? That remains to be the question.
Yeah, basically. And also at the same time, do you see any further stimulation that can be provided to Malaysian entrepreneurs or engineers who possibly have the ideas but maybe just don't really have the backing financially or otherwise to be able to jumpstart this goal? Well,
I think, everybody tends to look at it and say that you want Malaysia to assemble vehicles, you want them to basically build cars. There is the other side of it, which is basically production and components, key components for vehicles, technologies for them. This is one area where I think we can make a difference, where we have entrepreneurs or basically bright minds that will come up with basically, technologies mm-hmm. that will be used in these vehicles. That needs to be encouraged, and incentives need to be given to them if they have something that is, going to be workable. All right, so if they have something that is workable. Moving on from there, Paul, as well, Anthony, intelligent, smarter cars are, of course, the new norm, but data privacy issues keep cropping up. Just about last week, of course, there was the huge controversy, especially amongst the Tesla-owning crowd about the fact that private images that were recorded for car safety purposes from the dash cams were actually then circulated internally among Tesla employees who memified it and did many other things, breaching lots of different privacy-related issues. But what are the multiple security implications when it comes to basically such smart cars actually becoming a lot more commonplace? What about when it comes to, let's say, heads of state, etc., who will also be driving these soon? Well, I think data privacy is something that needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, we always only look at it from now when smart cars are coming out into the market from an automotive viewpoint. But it's always been there. Your phones, for example, have that. So they can track where you are, what you do, what you like, your things that you look at. And so it is also going to be the case with vehicles. Now, I'm no data privacy expert, but I think that companies who handle this data should be held accountable in some form if they were to leak the data out.
There have to be consequences, right?
You can't stop the collection of data. That's going to continue going on.
It does, to expand, of course, the efficiency and the capability
of course.
too. Yeah.
So you're going to have to collect the data, but how you manage it and ensure that it is, not sort of leaked out into the market where anyone can see it. And that's something that is very dangerous for, like say, for example, heads of state, security reasons for a lot of things. So it should be a case where people should be held accountable for it.
All right, so not just people, but the companies. All right,
yes.
Consequences. I like that. Moving along from there, Malaysia also, Anthony, thanks to its subsidization model, has the lowest petrol price in the Asia-Pacific region as of 2022. Can this price advantage be used as an incentive to prioritize the adoption of our zero-emission goals on the other hand, or is it always going to be a bit of a conflict?
Petrol subsidies are I think that's a very big subject. It's a touchy subject. It has always been discussed that they will remove it. How they're going to do this is going to be very interesting because the fact that everybody has been so used to it. So if you're going to remove it, there are implications, and the implications is that
it has to be gradual, right?
Well, they're going to do targeted subsidies. That's the plan, but it's not so much a case of ensuring that the people who need it get it. They can probably do that.
Right.
But cost of living will go up because you will have traders and you will have things going up because petrol price has gone up.
It's an entire ecosystem, right? It's balancing that.
So as long as petrol subsidies are there, then adoption of, say, electric vehicles will be a bit slower than it should be. Then again, also you can argue the fact that the technology is still coming into the market. You don't have a very wide variety of models available yet. So eventually they will come to a point where it will transition in. But it'd be very interesting to see how the petrol subsidies can be, done. One area where they were looking at was to say, well, we can tax internal combustion engine, ICE vehicles, in order to sort of make adoption of electric vehicles a little bit faster. Now, that's not going to work very well with the public because you have a lot of people who are in the B40 and M40 segment who would obviously not appreciate having to pay more for their cars. The people are already complaining that the cars are very expensive. So how do you manage that? I don't know. It's going to be very curious to see how they will do the thing with petrol subsidies and how it will, make a change in how the mindset is going to be for them. I don't know. It's interesting times, actually.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for taking a little bit of time to share your thoughts with us. Plenty more we could go on about, but that's about all we've got time for today. Anthony Lim, Senior Editor with paultan.org, joining us, of course, in the Astro AWANI studios for Niaga Spotlight. Well, that's actually all the time we have today for Niaga Spotlight. With me, Tamina Kausji. We'll see you next Friday with more business analysis and insights. Here's to a productive week ahead. All right.